to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Set to go down this weekend on the undercard of Cordina versus Vasquez in Monte Carlo. Ramla Ali will be taking on Julissa Alejandra Guzman for the second time in the women's super bantamweight division, scheduled for 10 rounds.
We know what happened the last time. We know what happened earlier this year when Ramla was first confronted with Julissa Guzman. She was violently knocked out by Julissa, who, in spite of being some years younger than Ramla, is more experienced as a pro.
She's been in there with more fighters than Ramla Ali has so far, some better fighters than Ramla Ali has had the opportunity to face. More rounds in the bank, sporting a professional record of 13 wins with 2 losses, 2 draws, 7 knockouts.
Having never been knocked out in 17 professional bouts. Very strong puncher. And I said as much ahead of their first fight, their initial meeting.
I think the basic idea here was put Ramla in there with Julissa Guzman, who had already shared the ring with this division's WBC champion, Yamilet Mercado. Put Ramla in there with Julissa, see how she does, and if she comes out on top, see about making the fight with Yami Mercado, this division's WBC champion. That's what I think the strategy was, but we all saw what happened. And now Ramla hopes to avenge that loss earlier this year, sporting a professional record of 8 wins with 1 loss, no draws, 2 knockouts, having been knocked out once, at least once in 9 professional bouts. That was literally her last fight.
Can she win this one?
I think she can. She still brings certain advantages to the table, even if raw punching power isn't one among them. She's still got the faster hands of the two and the faster feet. She's more mobile, more agile.
The mistake she made before was she was too willing to trade, too willing to sell out mid-range to inside. You don't hook with a hooker.
Ramla Ali made that fatal mistake, found out the hard way. You don't hook with a hooker. Downed in rounds 5 and 8. It was in the 8th round where she was stopped by Julissa Guzman off a violent left hook, a counter left hook, mid-range to inside. Thus, the strategy moving forward has to be staying on the outside of Julissa Guzman, beating those feet, keeping Julissa moving, and preventing her from setting her feet, planting them, and letting big punches go.
You stay on the move to keep Julissa Guzman moving.
You stay on the move to not give her a stationary target. You stay on the moves to stay on the outside of the pocket, getting straight punches off, staying behind your jab.
And walking her into it.
The pre-fight presser earlier today, Julissa Guzman let it be known she's aware of Ramla's strategy. She knows Ramla is going to fight on the fly, box and punch, box and move.
Julissa's got a chip on her shoulder after that violent knockout. Can't say as I blame her. And even if she is aware that Ramla's going to be using the ring and beating those feet, that doesn't mean Julissa can do anything about it. That's her Achilles heel, that she's got slower feet than Ramla and slower hands than Ramla. So if you box her from the outside,
you can neutralize her power, take some of those big punches away by not engaging her directly, not going toe-to-toe. Most people, they tend to remember how a fight ends, especially if it ends in a violent knockout, without any recollection of what led up to the knockout. And Ramla was actually having success in there. She just got carried away, put too many punches together, spent a little bit too much time in the pocket. So long as she corrects that fatal flaw,
she can win. She can win on points.
The difference from the first fight, going into the rematch, is she's now facing a Julissa Guzman that has a chip on her shoulder. She's going to be looking for that big left hook to seal the deal to finish Ramla Ali, and Ramla has to use that confidence against her.
Don't give it an opportunity for that same punch. That's the ticket. Use your jab. It may sound repetitive.
More focus on the jab, using that left, and don't be so quick to bring over that right, because when you bring over that right, she can counter it with her left. Disguise it.
You can disguise it by using the jab and changing the cadence on the jab, the number of jabs you throw and how you throw them in the round.
Before you let go of that right hand. I believe that Ramla Ali has learned from her mistakes. I believe in her corner, Manny Robles, who's a damn good trainer, underrated. And I believe that this weekend, it's not going to be a repeat. It's not going to be a repeat of the last time. It's going to be revenge. I'm going with Ramla Ali to win a points decision behind the jab and the half step back, moving and punching and boxing up Julissa Guzman.
I think she can do it. It's an uphill battle because she's in there with a very strong, very confident fighter, perhaps overly confident.
But I think Ramla has the ingredients. I think Ramla can pull it off. I'm going with Ramla Ali to win a points decision on the undercard of Cordinia versus Vasquez.
Does Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua fight within the next 12 months? If you're a betting man.
I mean, the hope in me says yes. But you just never know what this guy's going to do, honestly. Like, nothing that he does would surprise me. And listen, respect to him. Respect to John Fury, I think's fucking hilarious. Shane Fury, who, I met him the other night, seems like a nice bloke. What they've done is incredible. But they do talk shit at times, and so do I. But if they want to call me out on that, don't expect me not to call you out on it. And when you box like you did on Saturday and you tell everyone you're the second coming of Muhammad Ali, don't expect people to... you've gone over there for a cash grab and you've just got beat by a bloke that's never had a professional fight before. What do you think that comes without criticism? You've got to be bigger than that. So listen, he'll be better for the Usyk fight, I'm sure. But who knows whether it will happen.
Even Eddie Hearn at this time isn't quite convinced that Fury versus Usyk materializes because, like he said, with Tyson Fury, you never really know. What we do know is that Tyson Fury, in his own words, said he's the greatest fighter of all time. He likened himself to legends like Muhammad Ali, so on and so forth, without the consistency of a Muhammad Ali, without the guts, without the gusto.
You have to ask yourself, how does this guy go from being called this era's best heavyweight and one of the greatest, if not the greatest heavyweight of all times, to a guy who's got to scrape a decision against a novice? How does he go from one to the other?
Marketing. In a word, marketing. Promotion. They convinced a lot of people that Tyson Fury was the bee's knees for the simple fact that the fight between him and Wilder materialized, where the fight between Wilder and Joshua didn't. Even after Wilder admitted that the offer from DAZN was genuine, and it was to box Anthony Joshua, and it was for more money than he stood to make with Tyson Fury, even after Wilder admitted this himself on his own social media, by then, their marketing strategy had taken full effect. They brainwashed everybody, is what they did.
And their marketing strategy was to freeze out the other guy, freeze out Anthony Joshua, drag his name through the mud, and make him look bad for having not fought them, when they're the ones that have been walking away from him.
And even now, people wrestle with that. They don't want to believe it, but I'll tell you that when Tyson Fury decided to return to the sport of boxing, he had a choice. He could have fought Anthony Joshua for more belts and more money, or he could have fought Deontay Wilder for less belts and less money. He chose Deontay Wilder.
And why do you think that is? Because of how brave? Because of how courageous Tyson Fury is? Because Wilder was the guy to beat because he was number one? No, he wasn't. At that time, whether you looked at BoxRec rankings, Transnationals rankings, ESPN rankings, or anybody else's, Joshua was number one. He had the most belts.
Before the loss to Andy Ruiz, Anthony Joshua was the consensus #1 heavyweight in the world at that time. So if fighting him gets you a crack at more belts and more money, what you have to ask yourself is, why did Tyson Fury choose to fight Wilder instead of Anthony Joshua?
You're not gonna like the answer, but the answer is, it's because Fury viewed Wilder as being more limited, more beatable. In Fury's own words, he said he fooled Al Heyman.
What do you think he meant by that? And why do you think Deontay Wilder chose to bring this guy out of retirement to voluntarily give him a title shot when Anthony Joshua's right there?
You think that he looked at a substance abuser, a recovering cokehead battling obesity and quote-unquote mental illness. You're telling me you think Wilder chose to fight this guy under those circumstances because he viewed him as a bigger threat than AJ?
Don't be naive. What Deontay Wilder saw in Tyson Fury was a familiar face, a familiar name, with an unbeaten record, and a claim towards the lineal title. A guy who's battling obesity and substance abuse, thus it was the most opportune time to fight him, i.e. a cherry pick. A cherry pick gone wrong, because he didn't anticipate that even that version of Tyson Fury would be too much for him to beat.
They sought refuge in each other from the other guy. They couldn't have their way with the other guy in the boardroom, haggle for a better split. He was the clear A-side over the both of them.
They sought refuge with each other from the other guy, with the plan being to drag his name in the mud and make him look bad for having not fought them, even though they're the ones that were walking away from him.
And it worked.
Tack on the shock upset loss to Andy Ruiz, and it made that marketing strategy that much more effective, that much easier to sell.
Though hindsight being 2020, are we really gonna sit here and crucify Anthony Joshua for losing to a legitimate boxer with over 200 amateur fights and pro experience? Are we gonna crucify him for that while Tyson Fury labors with a novice who never really boxed before?
A novice who never boxed before, a novice who sat him on his back pocket, a novice who, most people, they don't even think Tyson Fury beat him this past Saturday. Hindsight being 2020.
Don't you see that they brainwashed you guys?
It is true that Anthony Joshua is not perfect. He's got his flaws, he's got his drawbacks, and he did lose to Andy Ruiz, and he did lose to Alexander Usyk. But you tell me, did Fury beat Andy Ruiz?
No.
Did Fury beat Alexander Usyk? And what about Wilder? Does Wilder have a recorded win over either of those boxers? Because if he doesn't, what are you gloating about?
All you did was pick a cherry, get your ass kicked for it. You yourself admitted they offered you more money for AJ than you stood to make with Fury, but you chose to fight Fury, and Anthony's the one taking the heat for that.
Till this day. And it's because a lot of people refuse to believe they've been conned. They've been duped. Both Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder jointly pulled a fast one on them.
They've convinced the world that Anthony Joshua is the mentally weak one, that he's mentally weak, but he's not the one that pulled out of a proposed rematch due to being mentally unfit. Last I checked, that was Tyson Fury.
That was Tyson Fury. So who's mentally weak? Deontay Wilder? This guy literally wore headphones to a press conference so he wouldn't have to address Tyson Fury or the media. But you're telling me that AJ's the mentally weak one.
No, you're the mentally weak one. And that's why it was so easy for them to fool you.
I'm not going to say that this is a reflection of all of boxing because there are other weight classes where nothing like that could have ever happened. I'm sorry, but you're not walking in the ring with 2 to 3 years of boxing lessons and beating Canelo. Tank Davis, your real first fight, and you think you're going to come out victorious? You're probably leaving the ring in a stretcher. Imagine someone started playing basketball in their 20s and you think he's ready to go one-on-one with LeBron or even ready to play horse with Steph Curry. And yeah, a couple of months getting trained by Mike Tyson doesn't make you Mike Tyson.
Public persona Demetria Obilor hit the nail on the head. Just because Tyson Fury went in there this past Saturday and stunk out the joint against the novice, you can't use that as a blanket statement for all of boxing, all these different weight classes and all those different divisions. I said it in my last video. Do you think a novice could go in there with Terrence Crawford and pull that miracle off? And what about Canelo Alvarez?
Artur Beterbiev, you think a novice boxer could go the distance with Artur Beterbiev, with Jayo Pataya up there at cruiserweight? In truth, this was only possible with Tyson Fury because only he...
MMA aficionados are taking every opportunity to use Saturday's fight as a blanket statement on how mixed martial arts is supposed to be superior to boxing based on Tyson Fury, how Tyson Fury performed. But that performance says more about Tyson Fury than it says about the heavyweight division. That performance says more about Tyson Fury than what it says about the sport of boxing, because if you want to know about the sport of boxing, you can have the entire UFC roster try their hand at boxing in their respective weight classes.
No angling, no gimmicks, because it's easy, right? It's so easy, you should pick it up easy and win a world title easy. You go to your respective weight classes in the sport of boxing and see how you make out. And I guarantee you, not a single one of those guys win a title.
Not a one. Because unless I'm mistaken, it's MMA fighters getting smacked around by YouTubers and social media influencers. What is supposed to be a more sophisticated discipline, superior to boxing in every way. These guys can't make it past YouTubers, so don't sell me that dream.
And don't give me the bit about how Ben Askren and Dylan Dennis, they come from wrestling backgrounds. They're not strikers. When the statement is MMA is superior to boxing, I'm going to assume that an MMA fighter should be able to handle a YouTuber.
Conor McGregor was many times bigger and many years younger than Floyd Mayweather. Floyd was retired in his mid to late 30s, and he wasn't a knockout merchant, but he managed to knock out Conor McGregor, one of the UFC's biggest. And it's for that reason that so many MMA aficionados are celebrating this past weekend's fight, that performance. But that has more to do with Tyson Fury and his lack of professionalism in tandem with the hyperbole.
The hype.
That's the damage that he's done to boxing's reputation in one fell swoop while strolling down Easy Street. That's the damage he's done to the sport, invalidating it, all because he's not everything that he's made out to be. He's not who and what they say he is. And it took for an MMA fighter to get in with a good left hook, a counter left hook, for people to start to realize that maybe you need to reevaluate who you think Tyson Fury is and how big a deal it is, or is it, that he beat Deontay Wilder. Because Deontay Wilder left a lot to the imagination.
You guys didn't start up with all this hullabaloo about Tyson Fury until he beat Deontay Wilder. Everything you think about Fury, it's not based on how he looked with Christian Hammer or Vladimir Klitschko.
Can't be based on how he looked with Otto Wallin in more recent years. He looked fucking horrible with Otto Wallin. No, everything you think about Fury is predicated on how he looked with Wilder. Well, maybe beating Wilder, a one-trick pony with no cardio and no coordination, maybe beating him isn't as big a deal as you've made it out to be. What these people have essentially done is they've turned scraping a win over Vladimir in an ugly fight and beating the same guy 3 times over the course of 5 years, they've turned that into the greatest heavyweight resume of this era, the greatest heavyweight resume of all times. An ugly fight with Klitschko and 3 fights with the same one-trick pony. That's all it takes to be the best heavyweight of all times. Maybe you're overestimating things. Maybe, just maybe, you need to reevaluate the last 5 years of boxing and what you think you know.
Because if I don't know nothing else, what I do know is there's no way Tyson Fury could be the guy he says he is, and Francis Ngannou lands a punch like that on him.
There's no way. And that's not even the first time or the second or the third or the fourth time Tyson Fury got sat on his back pocket. In fact, that's been happening to him throughout the entirety of his career. So maybe, just maybe, he's not as good as he says he is. As good as you think he is, or thought he was.
Realign your perception.